Welcome to all of you, Shiksha 360. And today, basically, we will discuss chapter number 29, that is basically based on term loan. Clear term loan, very, very important chapter, basically for your examination point of view and also for your basically daily banking. Clear, also for your daily banking. Clear, as if you are working in the advances sector. Clear, advances sector, clear in the bank, clear. So basically this is very, very important to understand all these terms, clear, to understand all these terms, clear. And basically my motive is clear, basically whenever I will teach any topic, my motive is basically that you can gain benefit in the exam. Along with that, basically you will get practical knowledge, clear, you will gain practical knowledge, clear, because our main motive of the exam is basically to gain the knowledge, clear, to gain the knowledge. If you have sufficient knowledge, then you can easily crack the examination, clear. So let's start basically what are term loan, clear. So generally when the word comes term loan, clear. So term loan, basically we can say that basically term loan is especially for the fixed assets, clear, for the fixed assets. And term loan is basically for long duration, clear, long duration, clear. So generally when anyone say that basically we want term loan, so basically what basically arises in our mind. So basically term loan, basically we can say that basically for purchasing the fixed assets, like basically we can say that like building, land, plant or machinery, and basically that loan is also of the long duration, clear, and that loan is also of the long duration, clear, that loan is also for the longer duration, clear. So now let's discuss on that. So basically bank provides term loan, clear, bank provides term loan basically for what? Normally for acquiring the fixed assets, clear, basically banks provide term loan normally for acquiring the fixed assets, clear. So you have to remember that basically term loan is related with the fixed assets, clear. So this type of question will asked in the examination. So term loan is related with the fixed asset like land, building, plant or machinery, infrastructure, etc., clear. And there are some exceptions also, clear. Sometimes basically they are also considered to be under the term loan, but in rare cases, clear, like personal loans, consumption loans, educational loans, etc., clear, being exemptions, clear. So basically here just we have to remember that term loan is basically for acquiring the fixed assets. And second one, there is one more term, that is working capital loan. Working capital loan. So basically working capital loan, basically we can say that like basically you are giving the CC limit, clear. CC is basically like a working capital loan, clear. CC, cash credit, clear. So it is like a working capital loan, clear. So while the working capital loans basically are provided for sustaining the working capital, clear, while the working capital loans basically are provided for sustaining the working capital, like basically we can say that for current assets, clear, that is basically for the current assets, clear. So basically 2 points you have to remember here. Term loan is basically for the fixed asset. Working capital, WCL, working capital loan, is basically for the current asset, clear. It is basically for the current asset, clear. And in exceptional cases, clear, in exceptional cases, basically banks provide term loan for the current assets also, clear. Basically in the exceptional cases, basically banks provide, clear, in the exceptional cases, basically banks provide term loan, clear. Banks provide term loan for the current assets also, clear. So basically when the bank provide, clear, when the bank provide basically term loan for the current asset, that is basically known as working capital term loan, clear. WCTL, clear, WCTL, that is working capital term loan, clear. That is basically term loan is provided for the current asset, clear, basically for the current asset, clear. So basically current asset, basically we can say that basically we are giving the working capital, clear. But here basically we are providing that term loan, so basically we have to include the word term also, clear. Working capital term loan, clear. So basically when the banks provide term loan basically for the current assets, clear, basically when the bank provide term loan basically for the current asset, that is basically known as the working capital term loan, clear. That is basically known as the working capital term loan, clear. So basically as we are aware that the business enterprise, clear, is supposed to bring a part of its funds required to maintain the desired level of current assets, clear. Basically they have to also put their own funds, clear. As the business enterprise, clear, is supposed to bring a part of its funds required to maintain the desired level of current assets from its long-term sources, clear. Basically from its long-term sources, that is we can say that basically capital or time liabilities, clear. That is basically generally overall we can say it is with NWC, clear, NWC, so that the stipulated current ratio can be maintained, clear. So basically it means that basically the business enterprise has to put some of its funds, clear, basically some of its funds to maintain the desired level of current assets. Clear? Basically to maintain the desired level of current assets, basically from its long-term sources. Clear? Basically from its long-term sources, either it is to be capital or term liabilities. Clear? And overall this is to be called as NWC. Clear? NWC. So NWC basically known as the net working capital. Clear? NWC is basically known as the net working capital. Clear? And in the examination, basically sometimes they will ask basically what is the formula of the net working capital, or they will ask numerical based question on the net working capital. So net working capital, it is basically current asset minus current liability. Clear? So net working capital, it is basically what is it is current asset minus current liability. Clear? Current asset minus current liability. And here basically they have given so that the stipulated current ratio can be maintained. Clear? So basically how it can be maintained, basically when the bank, basically when the business enterprise, clear, has put some of its fund, clear, to maintain the assets. Clear? So current ratio, it is to be current asset upon current liability. Clear? Current asset upon current liability, that is basically known as the current ratio. Clear? That is basically known as the current ratio. Clear? So here basically they say that if the enterprise, clear, if the enterprise or the organization is not able, clear, if the enterprise or the organization is not able to bring in the required amount of NWC, clear, required amount of NWC, it will feel liquidity crunch. Clear? It will feel liquidity crunch. So basically it means that it will be greater than above, greater than equal to zero net working capital. That means basically we have more the current asset than the current liability. Clear? If basically we will face liquidity crunch in the this one, clear, in this one, clear, it means that we have current asset 10 and current liability 14. Clear? So basically our net working capital, basically we will get negative result. So basically it means that basically it will feel liquidity crunch. Clear? It will feel liquidity crunch and the business operations will be affected. Clear? And in this case, business operations will be affected. Clear? So basically when this type of condition arises, clear, so basically when this type of condition arises, bank may provide working capital term loan. Clear? Bank may provide working capital term loan. Clear? Working capital term loan. Clear? So one thing I will tell you here, you will see in your branches, what you have to see that basically the limits, clear, basically the CC limits, clear, basically which are not performing well, clear, basically which are not performing well, you are providing them working capital term loan. Clear? You are providing them working capital term loan. Clear? It means that basically your CC limit, clear, basically generally it means that basically your CC limit is to be converted into the loan. Clear? Your CC limit is to be converted into the loan. Clear? Your CC limit is to be converted in the loan. This is the meaning of that. Clear? This is the meaning of that. Clear? I think many of you are also doing this. Clear? Basically when the CC limit is not working properly. Clear? When the CC limit is not working properly, so basically you will provide the working capital term loan. Clear? So in that case, basically what we will provide, working capital term loan. So this is overall discussion of the term loan. Clear? This is the overall discussion of the term loan. So basically working capital loans, clear, like we can say that basically CC limit, clear, having a duration of basically we can say that 1 year. So working capital loans, clear, working capital loans basically are normally sanctioned for 1 year, clear, are normally sanctioned for 1 year, but are payable demand, clear, but are payable on demand. On the other hand, term loans are payable as per the agreed repayment schedule. Clear? Basically term loans are payable as per the agreed repayment schedule, which is stimulated in the terms of the sanction. Clear? Which is stipulated in the terms of the section. Clear? Like basically we can sanctioning any loan. Clear? So basically we have to select the schedule. Clear? Basically we have to select the schedule. Like basically we can say that basically in some schedules, basically we will select EMI basically. That is every month basically we have to pay the fixed payment. Clear? In the form of installment. Clear? Sometimes basically we will say that basically there is 3-month moratorium, and after that the installment will be started. Clear? And in some cases, basically like in the case of educational loans, clear, basically some persons what will prefer that initially basically we will have to pay the interest amount, and basically after 2 years, clear, or after the completion of the course, basically we will start principal also. Clear? Basically we will start principal also. Clear? So basically it depends upon the schedule. Clear? It depends upon the schedule, basically agreed between the bank and the customer. Clear? Agreed between the bank and the customer. Clear? So basically working capital loans are normally sanctioned for 1 year, but are payable on demand. Clear? Basically but are payable on demand. term loans are payable. Clear, terms loan are payable basically as per the agreed repayment schedule, which is stipulated in the terms of the section. Clear, basically which is stipulated in the terms of the section. Therefore, for the purpose of matching assets and liabilities, clear. Therefore, for the purpose of matching assets and liabilities of the banks, term loans are considered. Clear, basically terms loan are considered long-term assets. Clear, basically terms loan are considered basically generally long-term assets, while the working capital loans are considered as short-term assets. Clear, while the working capital loans, clear, basically while the working capital loans basically are considered to be as the short-term assets. Clear, while the working capital loan basically are considered to be as the short-term assets. Clear, practically, however, an enterprise continues to enjoy the working capital loan. Clear, practically, basically we can say that basically like term loan has some tenure. Clear, term loan basically has some tenure. We can say that 10 years, 15 years, 5 years. Clear, 10 years, 15. But as such, there is not any time condition under the working capital loan. Clear, basically these are generally normally for 1 year, but you can have. Clear, basically this can be, we can say that again sanction. Clear, again sanction. Clear, practically, however, an enterprise basically continues to enjoy the working capital loan. Clear, practically, however, an enterprise basically continues to enjoy the working capital loan till its working is a satisfactory. Clear, basically when the firm is doing, basically when the working of the firm is satisfactory, you can continue your working capital loan. Clear, while the term loan basically gets repaid over a period of time. Clear, while the term loan basically gets repaid over a period of time. Clear, so as a term loan, clear, basically as a term loan is expected. Clear, as a term loan basically it is expected to be repaid. Clear, out of the future cash flows. Clear, basically from where the customer will fill the installment. Clear, or pay the installment basically from their business earnings. Clear, from their business earnings. Clear, so as a term loan is expected. Clear, as a term loan is expected to be repaid. Clear, as a term loan is expected to be repaid basically out of the future cash flows. Clear, as a term loan is expected to be repaid out of the future cash flows of the borrower, the DSCR. Clear, basically DSCR basically stands for DSCR, debt service coverage ratio. Clear, debt service coverage ratio. So what is the formula? Clear, first of all, basically formula is basically net operating income upon total debt. Clear, upon total debt. Clear, so basically as a term loan is expected to be repaid out of the future cash flows. Clear, basically what they earn in the upcoming time, basically they will have to pay the installment from that. Clear, so basically the DSCR, clear, the debt service coverage ratio, clear, assumes greater importance. Clear, because it shows that basically net operating income. Clear, basically how much they are getting income. Clear, so as it is more, so basically it is beneficial for the firm. Clear, so basically what the DSCR basically assumes greater importance. Clear, so under the term loan, clear, basically under the term loan, basically which ratio basically we assume greater importance? DSCR. Clear, under the term loan, basically which ratio is important? DSCR. Clear, so basically sometimes they will ask basically as a term loan, clear, basically is expected to be repaid out of the future cash flows of the borrower. So which ratio is important here? Clear, basically which ratio is important here? That is basically DSCR. Clear, debt service coverage ratio. Clear, debt service coverage ratio. Clear, on the other hand, clear, basically this is basically under the term loan. Clear, basically while for the working capital loan, the liquidity ratio assumes greater importance. Clear, so while for the working capital loan, basically which ratio is important? Liquidity ratio is important. Clear, liquidity ratio is important. Clear, so you have to remember all these things. Clear, you have to remember all these things basically while going through the topic. Clear, basically which ratio is important at which place. Clear, which ratio is important at which place. Clear, so basically for the term loan, DSCR ratio is important, and for the working capital loan, basically liquidity ratio is important. Clear, liquidity ratio is important. Clear, these types of question basically they will ask in the examination. Clear, because basically as basically we are not preparing properly or not understanding these terms, so basically it creates difficulty. Clear, that's why I'm saying again and again. Clear, please remember all these things, and if you have any doubt, any query, then you can ask also. Clear, now move to the next one. Clear, basically as there is no uniform repayment schedule. Clear, as basically we have already discussed, there is no uniform repayment schedule for all term loans. Clear, so each term loan basically has its own peculiar repayment schedule, clear, depending upon the cash surplus of the borrower, clear, depending upon the cash surplus of the borrower, clear. Like here basically we will discuss some examples. Thus, like in the case of a salaried person, clear, like in the case of a salaried person, basically where income level is constant, clear, like basically we can say that you are getting 42,000 monthly income or 50,000 monthly income, clear. So thus in case of a salaried person, clear, where income level is constant, clear, where income level is constant, the repayment can be through, clear, the repayment can be through basically through the EMI system, clear. So basically the salaried person, clear, basically which system basically they will use, clear. So thus in case of a salaried person, clear, basically where income level is constant, the repayment basically can be through EMI system, clear. In that case basically the repayment can be done through the EMI system, clear. Like, and in the other case, clear, in the case of a farmer, clear, basically in the case of a farmer, the repayment of principal and interest, clear, the repayment of principal and interest may coincide with the cropping pattern, clear, basically may coincide with the cropping pattern. Like we can say that either has to be 6 months or 1 year, clear, or 18 months, depending upon crop to crop, clear, depending upon crop to crop, clear. So it depends upon the person, clear, upon the category of the person, clear, basically for which basically we are giving the loan, clear. Similarly, here next one, basically in the case of an industrial enterprise, clear, in the case of an industrial enterprise, normally banks stipulate, clear, in the case of an industrial enterprise, normally banks stipulate monthly, quarterly, clear, monthly or quarterly repayment of principal, clear, banks stipulate basically monthly or quarterly repayment of principal, clear, repayment of principal basically along with all the accumulated interest, clear, along with all the accumulated interest, clear. So in some cases, clear, basically in some cases the entire payment may be stimulated, clear, in some cases the entire repayment, clear, in some cases the entire repayment may be stipulated in one installment only, clear, the entire repayment basically may be stipulated in one installment only, called the bullet repayment, clear, called the bullet repayment, clear. All these things basically we have discussed under the chapter number 12, clear, under the chapter number 12, clear. So basically when the entire repayment basically may be stipulated in one installment, that is basically known as the bullet repayment, clear, that is basically known as the bullet repayment, clear. So it depends upon case to case, clear, it depends upon case to case, clear. So now move to the next one, that is basically deferred payment guarantees, clear, deferred payment guarantees, clear. As basically all of you have already cleared the JAIIB, so basically you will basically you are understand basically what is deferred payment guarantee, clear, basically deferred payment guarantee, that is basically we are taking the loan, clear, under the deferred payment guarantee basically what is that, basically we are taking a loan for machinery, clear, basically for machinery, and we can say that machinery is of rupees 18 crore, clear, machinery is of rupees 18 crore, clear. So basically here basically we will do the payment, clear, basically here basically we will do the payment not in one instance, clear, basically not in one instance, basically we can say that we have total 9-year loan, clear, basically 9-year loan, basically 6 months monthly installment, clear, basically half yearly installment, you can say that half yearly installment, clear, like after every 6 months, clear, basically we have to pay the installment, clear, we have to pay the installment, clear. So basically these things comes under the deferred payment guarantee, clear, deferred payment guarantee. So how it relates here, let's discuss. So basically when the purchaser of a fixed asset, clear, when the purchaser of a fixed asset does not pay to the supplier immediately, clear, does not pay to the supplier immediately, but pays according to an agreed repayment schedule, clear, but pays according to an agreed repayment schedule, and the bank guarantees this payment, clear, and the bank also guarantees this payment. So the guarantee is called the DPG, clear, and here the bank give guarantee, clear, that the purchaser or the borrower will do the payment, clear, will do the payment, clear. So in this type of case basically guarantee is basically known as the DPG, clear, deferred payment guarantee, clear. And this is a basically non-fund based guarantee, clear, this is basically a non-fund based method for financing purchase of fixed asset, clear, this is basically a non-fund based method, clear, non-fund based method for financing purchase of a fixed assets, clear, basically for financing purchase of fixed assets, clear. However, clear, this is non-fund based, clear. So basically bank here give the guarantee basically, but these comes under the contingent liabilities, clear, contingent liabilities, clear, basically as already we have discussed that guarantee, bank guarantee is basically a off balance sheet item. Clear? Off balance sheet item. This is basically we have discussed under chapter number 19 of BFM. Clear? Off balance sheet item, basically when the non-fund based becomes fund based. Clear? Basically when the non-fund based becomes a fund based. Clear? Basically when it becomes fund based. Now let's discuss. However, if the purchaser, clear? However, if the purchaser defaults, clear? Like basically now the purchaser will not pay the installment. So basically here bank has to pay the installment. Clear? So earlier it is a non-fund based. Clear? Now basically it becomes fund based for the bank. Clear? Because now bank has to pay the installment. Clear? Basically now bank has to pay the installment. Clear? However, if the purchaser defaults in payment of any amount, clear? In payment of any amount, the bank has to pay the same to the supplier, and the exposure becomes fund based. Clear? As the exposure basically becomes fund based till the amount is recovered from the client. Clear? And the exposure basically becomes fund based till the amount is recovered from the client. Clear? Till the amount is recovered from the client. Clear? So the risk involved in a deferred payment guarantee, clear? The risk involved in a deferred payment guarantee are same as those in a term loan, and therefore the appraisal for a deferred payment guarantee is the same as that for a term loan. Clear? Appraisal basically means that basically we have to check all the terms and conditions, basically all the things basically which we have to consider. Clear? In the case of term loan, clear? Basically we are taking all these terms and conditions while giving a deferred payment guarantee. Clear? While giving a deferred payment guarantee. Clear? So basically this is the meaning of the deferred payment guarantee. Clear? It is basically a non-fund based, but when the purchaser default, it becomes fund based. Clear? It becomes fund based because the bank has to pay the fund. Clear? Because the bank has to pay the fund. So please tell fast if you have any doubt, any query up to this much point. Hope it is clear to all of you basically what is term loan, what is working capital. Clear? Basically we have discussed first of all basically what is term loan, what is working capital term loan, what is net working capital, what is current ratio, current asset upon current liability. Clear? All these things basically we have discussed here. Clear? What is DSCR and what is liquidity ratios. Clear? All these things basically we have discussed in detail. Now next, between what difference between the term loan appraisal and the project appraisal. Clear? So what is the difference between the term loan appraisal and the project appraisal? Clear? Basically which things basically we have to keep in mind while giving the term loan, or clear, while giving the term loan. Clear? So here basically we have discussed difference between the term loan appraisal and the project appraisal. Clear? And the project appraisal. Clear? So basically for appraising the stand-alone term loan. Clear? Basically for appraising the stand-alone term loan proposal. Clear? So basically one student have doubt basically, so what is a stand-alone term loan proposal? Clear? Stand-alone term loan. Clear? So basically stand-alone term loan, basically we consider basically a loan that is secured by a security. Clear? Loan that is secured by property, or we can say it's security. Clear? So basically for appraising a standalone term loan proposal, all the concept involved in a project appraisal. Clear? All the steps involved in a project appraisal basically may not be necessary to be applied to all the concepts of a term loan. Clear? Basically, so all the concepts of a term loan appraisal are applicable to project finance also. Clear? Are applicable to project finance also. Clear? Are applicable to project finance also. Clear? So what are the differences? Basically we have to now discuss one by one. So in the project finance, clear, basically when we are doing any project, so basically financing any project. Clear? In the project finance, all the financial needs of the enterprise. Clear? Basically all the financial needs of the enterprise, including the working capital requirements, are to be appraised. Clear? So basically we have to check that. Clear? Basically if we are giving a loan of 20 lakh, clear, basically whether that firm is able to generate that much income basically from their work or not. Clear? So basically we have to take care. So all the financial needs of the enterprise, basically including the working capital requirements, are appraised. Clear? Or basically we are giving a loan. So basically whether that firm, basically we are giving a 20 lakh loan. Clear? So basically whether that total amount basically they will use in that farm, or basically there is some diversion of funds. Clear? So basically we have to take care regarding all these things. Clear? This is because the total requirement of the long-term funds, clear, includes margin money for the working capital. Clear? This is because the total requirement of long-term funds, clear, basically includes margin money for the working capital, clear, includes margin money for the working capital also, clear. So after assessing the total requirement, clear, so after assessing the total requirement of long-term funds, clear, after assessing the total requirement of long-term funds, the banks decide, clear, the banks decide upon the amount, clear, the banks decide upon the amount of term loan to be sanctioned and the contribution of the promoter, clear. Basically how much basically we are giving and how much the promoter will put into that, clear, how much the promoter will put into that, clear. Like basically we can say that if you are going to purchase 40 lakh machinery, clear, for machineries of rupees 40 lakh, clear. So basically bank will not provide you total amount that is 40 lakh, clear, bank will not provide you total amount that is 40 lakh, clear. We can say that basically bank will provide you 34 lakh and 6 lakh basically will be provided by the promoter, clear. So basically in this way, clear. So basically after assessing the total requirement of the long-term funds, the bank decide, clear, upon the amount of the term loan basically to be sanctioned and the contribution of the promoters, clear, and the contribution of the promoters, clear. Next case here, clear, basically if an existing enterprise, clear, basically firm is already existed, clear, basically firm is already existed, clear. So if an existing enterprise, clear, if an existing enterprise basically wants to purchase a few machineries, clear, basically if an existing enterprise basically wants to purchase a new machinery, basically which are not going to have a major impact, clear, which are not going to have a major impact basically on the volume or composition of the business, clear. So it will serve little purpose, clear, to have a detailed examination of the techno-economic feasibility, managerial competence, IRR, etc., clear. So just basically add this case, clear, basically what the bank will do here, basically it may be enough for the bank to examine the projections for the next 2 to 3 years, clear. Basically what they will do, basically the projections for the next 2 to 3 years, basically to find out that the DSCR is at a satisfactory level, clear. Basically debt service coverage ratio, clear, debt service coverage ratio is to be at a satisfactory level, clear, debt service coverage ratio, it is to be at a satisfactory level, clear, it is to be at a satisfactory level. So in the case of loans, clear, basically in the case of loans to individuals like the housing loans, educational loans, etc., it may be enough to examine the projected DSCR basically to judge the viability, clear, to judge the viability, clear. However, the basic principles of appraisal of a project or a stand alone sorry. However, the basic principles of appraisal of a project or a stand-alone term loan are not different. Clear, basically are not different. If one is clear about the project appraisal, the appraisal of a standalone term even is more simpler. Clear, the appraisal of a standalone appraisal is just basically what is the meaning of appraisal here. Basically, just we have to check. Clear, just we have to check here. Basically, for we are giving a loan. Clear, whether that person is able of that much loan or not, clear. Basically we have to check all these things here, clear. That is basically known as the appraisal, clear. That is basically known as the appraisal, clear. In the upcoming sessions of this chapter, basically we have to discuss in detail regarding the appraisal, clear. So basically this is basically what is the difference. So here basically we are discussed basically what is the difference between the term loan appraisal and the project appraisal, clear. What is the difference between the term loan appraisal and the project appraisal, clear. So now basically we are discussing basically project appraisal, clear. So project appraisal, clear. Basically the project appraisal basically can be broadly taken into the following 3 parts, clear. Basically the project appraisal basically can be broadly taken into the following steps, clear, into the following steps. First one is the appraisal of managerial aspects, clear, appraisal of managerial aspects. Second one is technical appraisal. Third one is the economic appraisal, clear. Third one is the economic appraisal, clear. So basically we have to understand one by one, clear. Basically what is included under that, clear. Basically what is included under that, clear. So project appraisal. So basically project appraisal can be broadly taken into the following steps: appraisal of managerial aspects, technical appraisal, economic appraisal, clear. So let's discuss appraisal of managerial aspects, clear. So appraisal of managerial aspects, basically the appraisal of the managerial aspects basically involves seeking the answer of the following questions, clear. Basically what are the credentials of the promoters, clear. Basically here first of all basically what are the credentials of the promoters and what are the financial stake, clear. Basically we can say that this is a business, clear. A and B are promoters. So basically what are the financial stake of them, clear. What is the financial stake of promoters into the project, clear, in the project, clear. Can they bring additional funds in case of contingencies, clear. Can they bring additional funds basically in case of contingencies arising out of delay in the project implementation and change in the market conditions, clear, and change in the market condition. Like we can say that due to the COVID, clear. Basically due to the COVID, Clear? Basically many projects, we can say that if the project is to be completed in 2 years, so basically the duration of the project basically increased. Basically, we can say that 4 years, 5 years. Clear? So basically, this type of condition arises. Clear? Or any other condition arises. Clear? So basically, what is the financial stake of promoters in the project, and can they bring additional funds? Clear? So basically, here they will face the issue. So can they bring having an additional fund? Basically, we can say that like 100, we can say that 10 crore or 15 crore. Clear? Can they bring or not? Clear? Can they have that much capability or not? Clear? Can they have that much capability or not? Clear? So can they bring additional funds in case of contingencies, basically arising out of delay? Clear? Basically arising out of delay in project implementation and changing in the market condition. Clear? And changing in the market conditions. Clear? Last one, basically, what is the form of business organization? Clear? What is the form of business organization, and who are the key persons? Clear? And who are the key persons basically to be appointed to run the business? Clear? And who are the key persons basically to be appointed to run the business? Clear? So basically this is the appraisal of managerial experts. Next one is the technical appraisal. Clear? Technical appraisal, very basic things basically we have to discuss here. Technical appraisal basically means the technical feasibility of a project. Clear? The technical feasibility of a project involves the following aspects. Clear? Involves the following aspects, like basically what is the location where basically we have to do our project. Clear? And basically which of the following products to be manufactured, or what is the production process, availability of the infrastructure. Clear? Whether infrastructure is easily available or not, provider of the technology, details of the proposed construction, contractor for project execution, waste disposal and pollution control, availability of the raw materials, and marketing arrangements. Clear? Availability of the raw materials and marketing arrangements. Clear? Basically all these things basically we have to take care. Clear? All these things basically we have to take care. Clear? So under the technical approach. Clear? So the technical feasibility of a project. Clear? The technical feasibility of the project involves the following aspects. Clear? Involves the following aspects. First one is the location. First one is the location here. Second one is the products to be manufactured. Clear? Basically products to be manufactured or the production process. Third one here basically the availability of the infrastructure. Fourth one is the provider of the technology. Fifth one here basically detailed of proposed construction, contractor for the project execution, waste disposal and pollution control. Clear? Basically whether they have take proper certification from the government or not. Clear? Regarding the pollution control and waste disposal. Clear? Whether they are disposing the waste either in the rivers or basically they have proper disposal process. Clear? Basically or doing the proper way. Clear? So basically all these things basically we have to take care. Clear? Availability of the raw materials. Clear? Basically either the raw materials can be easily available or not, and the marketing arrangement. Clear? Basically how they can distribute their project in the market. Clear? So all these things basically we have to take care. Clear? All these things basically we have to take care here. So the last one here. Clear? The last one here, that is to be the economic appraisal. Clear? The last one basically which we have to understand here, that is the economic appraisal. Clear? So the economic or financial feasibility of a project, clear, involves the following aspects. Clear? First one here basically the return on investment. Clear? Basically the return on investment. Clear? Basically if we are putting funds. Clear? So basically whether we are getting the adequate returns from that or not. Clear? Basically whether we are getting the adequate returns from that or not. Clear? So basically first one is the return on investment. Clear? So the usual methods basically used here are like NPV. Clear? NPV basically we have already discussed, net present value. Clear? Net present value. Clear? Basically under the chapter number 12. Clear? Net present value, IR, payback period, cost benefit ratio, accounting rate of return. Clear? Accounting rate of return, etc. Clear? All these things basically come under the net return on investment. Clear? As basically we have already discussed, clear, under the chapter number 12 part 1 regarding the net present value. Clear? Basically from this basically we have already get questions in the examination. Clear? There are three cases basically which we have used, that net NPV is greater than 0, NPV is equal to 0, or NPV is less than 0. Clear? So basically the project is feasible only when the net present value is greater than 0. Clear? When the net present value is to be greater than 0. Clear? Generally basically we will take that case. Clear? Next one is the break even analysis. Clear? Break even analysis. Clear? So basically a project with the higher break even point. Clear? A project with the higher break even point is considered more risky. Clear? Is considered more risky than the one with the lower break even point, clear, basically than the one basically with the lower break even point, clear. So basically what is break even point, clear, BEP, clear, many times basically this is also be denoted as BEP, clear, break even point, clear. So it is that point basically where the total cost, clear, break even point, it is that point where the total cost is equal to the total revenue, clear, basically where the total cost is equal to the total revenue, clear, basically where the total cost is equal to the total revenue, clear. That is basically known as a break even point, clear. Next one is the sensitivity analysis, clear, sensitivity analysis, clear, basically as market conditions are uncertain, clear, as market conditions are uncertain, so a small change in the price of the raw materials, clear, as market conditions are uncertain, so a small change in the price of raw materials or finished goods, clear, may have a drastic impact on the viability of the project. So sensitivity analysis basically examines such impact, clear. Sensitivity analysis basically examines such impact, clear. So as the market conditions are uncertain, so a small change, clear, basically sometimes a small change in the prices of the raw materials or finished goods, clear, may have a drastic impact, clear, basically may have a drastic impact on the viability of a project, clear, basically may have a drastic impact, clear, may have a drastic impact basically on the viability of a project, clear. So sensitivity analysis basically examines such impact, clear. So all these things, clear, basically all these things basically come under economic appraisal, clear. All these things basically come under the economic appraisal. First one is the return on investment, second one is the break even analysis, clear. So you have to remember that break even point, clear, basically when the total cost is equal to the total revenue, clear. Third one is the sensitivity analysis, clear, sensitivity analysis, clear. So in this session, basically, we have to discuss up to this much point, clear. In this session, basically, we have to discuss up to this much point. And in the next session, basically, we have to discuss regarding the appraisal and financing of the infrastructure products, clear. Appraisal and financing of the infrastructure products, clear. So I request to all of you, please go through the video once again and try to understand all the points, clear, and try to understand all the points, clear. It seems easy, clear, but they will ask twister type questions, clear. So basically, you have to understand all the points properly, clear. So thanks to all of you for attending this session.